1 week until opening day. Can you believe it? We are 7 days from when the Mets go to H-Town, where everything's bigger in Texas. And one guy who will be there as part of the broadcast is Pat McCarthy of Odyssey Mets Radio 880, and he has just got back to Florida. Pat, I think you could work on your tan a little bit. I know you're probably Irish, assuming by McCarthy, but do you tan? Do you burn? Are you a Red Lobster? Am I going to eat a cheddar biscuit off your face or what?
Yeah, Jake, it's a pretty safe assumption that when my parents named me Patrick McCarthy, they were not hiding our Irish heritage by any means. But no, I had a base layer on there for the first 10 days or so that I was down here. And then I went back north. And although it was fall spring for the last couple of days, which was pretty nice, but now I'm back down here and here through the duration of the spring. So I'll try and get a nice little base tan before coming back home.
And you were there a couple of weeks, and now you're back. You kind of get the feel. And by the way, this is Mets Daily. I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Radio. He's Pat McCarthy at Pat McCarthy _ on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Smash that thumbs up on the video right now. Give us that thumbs up. Subscribe, share the Mets Daily channel, and comment below. As we always read your comments here on Mets Daily. We appreciate you watching. 1 week away, and in 15 days, I will be with my dad for the 22nd straight year in a row. My father-son home opener tradition will continue in Juan Soto years, 22, which means the Mets have won the World Series this season. I don't make the rules. That's just what the math says. Pat, you kind of get the feel of Juan Soto. You kind of get the feel of that aura. We keep talking about the word aura in Mets camp. Did you get it? Like being a broadcaster, being on the field, talking to some of these guys, or are we overhyping the aura around this team?
Well, it's hard to overhype something when it's the biggest acquisition in franchise history, or at least in the last 25 years or so. So I don't think we're overhyping it. It is one guy, so it's going to take a total collective team effort to get the job done. But there is 100% a different mindset right now around this club, and there is a different energy around this team. You can sense it every single day when you walk in and out of the clubhouse. There's a larger media presence, and whenever there's a larger media presence, that means the team is relevant. But also, I get the sense that there's a little bit of unfinished business from this squad because there are so many guys back from last year's team that got a taste of the National League Championship Series without any kind of expectations. Now the expectations are there, and you pair that with the taste of a playoff experience. So I think all these guys are heading into this season with the mindset that it's get to the playoffs, and then whatever you can do once the playoff starts, anything is possible. So I think Juan Soto amplifies that. I think his presence amplifies that. And I think this is a team that, with the acquisitions that were made beyond just Juan Soto, is primed for a pretty special run and maybe complete that 22 cycle like you talked about.
I need it. I need a championship. Like, I need air to breathe. And we got a sprinkle. We got close. We got almost to the finish line. But, of course, we ran into the Avengers, as the Mets will probably run into once again this year, in the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are already undefeated. I mean,
They are undefeated.
if they don't win 100 games, 12 guys got hurt. And I always joke that it'll take 12 injuries for the Mets to beat them because they got Clayton Kershaw's like their number 9 starter. Like, it's absurd what their roster looks like. But Juan Soto, the aura was set when he got ridiculed by that fan who was wearing a shirt that needs to be abolished, that needs to be banned, with the cutoff and the hair. He looked like Florida Man when you search Florida Man, and the guy like banged a dolphin or some crazy thing that Florida men do. Look up as Pat turns his head down. But you look up your birthday in Florida Man, and weird things happen, and that's what that guy looked like. And then he hits the piss missile to right field. That's Juan Soto. That's what he brings to the table. And one guy that's not back, as we talk about the 2024 Mets, I'm still wearing the gear, man. Like,
I saw the shirt.
Is there a part of you that thought the Mets should have just paid him the $3 million, the $1 million? I know there's the young guys. You want to open up room, but is there a little part of you, or is it just me loving the song and the aura, that they should have brought Iglesias back?
Yeah, I think there are arguments to be made for both, because the argument for bringing Jose Iglesias back is he's a winning player. And say what you want about what the term MVP means or anything like that. He was a massive reason as to why this team became the team that it was last season. and he filled a role that was needed. He was a veteran presence. He was a calming presence, but he also provided a ton of energy, and he produced, right? This would be totally different. We wouldn't be talking about this if he hit 180 and committed a bunch of errors.
He had
He was really
373 with runners
he
in
was
scoring
really
position.
impactful on the field.
373.
And it just seemed like that every time there was a big situation and Jose Iglesias was up, he was going to come through. And he had an amazing run, and I think he's going to be remembered for a long time, even though it was a short, as a really impactful New York Met. I think if the money was right and the opportunity was there, I think the Mets would have brought him back maybe on a minor league deal, but I don't think they were going to necessarily commit a full-time roster spot to a guy that was out of options and was going to require a lot of money. So I would have loved to have had Jose back because he was a tremendous clubhouse guy. He was great to work with in terms of the media. He was so charismatic. He had a great presence to him. We talk about aura. He had an amazing aura to him, and he was fun. It was exciting. But at the end of the day, I just think that David Stearns and Steve Cohen and the front office and everybody weren't going to just commit money to somebody just because it was a popular thing to do. And they felt like, in terms of a baseball move, the right thing to do was go with some of these younger guys and create some roster flexibility.
Did you hear OMG before it came out, and did you love the song before we all heard it on June 27th or whenever it dropped?
I heard it. I knew it was coming out. I knew the Candelita thing from my counterparts in Syracuse that were the broadcasters up there, Evan Stockton and Michael Tricarico.
Love Evan Stockton.
Yeah, great guy. They had kind of filled me in on it a little bit. So I was aware of it, but it wasn't until I heard it playing in the stadium for the first time that I really heard it. And I remember going up to Jose, and at this point, I didn't even know that it wasn't out yet. I just thought it was a song that Candelita had released. And I asked him one day, I forget where we were on the road, and I said, "Hey, what is the streams up to?" And he said, "It's not even released yet. We're just playing it." I was like, "Oh man, you got to get it out there." And at this point, I believe it was July 3rd or something. It was supposed to be coming out first week in July, whatever. And then all of a sudden it gets released in that early release date, and man, did it take off. So no, I hadn't heard it beforehand. I had known that it was coming, but it caught like wildfire. And I was in the same Candelita train as everybody. I was riding that song, through and through, on and off the field. I had it on all my Spotify playlists and stuff. It's electric.
My Spotify Wrapped, the number one song was OMG. Like, it was my most played song of the year.
I was curious if mine was going to be, because at least in my top 5, because I had it on, when I would go on like long runs, I had a sequence of like 5 or so songs that would play at the end of all my runs. And it was like number 3 of the songs that would play in my final stretch. So I was curious if it would crack my top 5. I share my Spotify with my wife, who uses it a lot more. So because of that, none of my songs cracked the top 5.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know, I had it on repeat. I had the remix with my counterpart Pitbull. I'm Mr. 205. He's Mr. 305. He's the Miami bald legend. I'm the New York bald legend. So, you know, it's my birthday's February 5th. It just worked to call me Mr. 205. I'm the minor league Pitbull. You know, I have minor league option with a chance to make the big league roster, a spring training invite. Pat McCarthy is in the major leagues, and he has a major league invite for the New York Mets, and he'll be calling the games alongside our guys Keith Rad and the Howie Rose, who almost became my father. Do you know that story, right? How he asked my mom out in 1983, but she had started dating. Yeah, it's a big story. And Howie remembered asking her out, got her number at a Toyota dealership in Flushing or Queens somewhere in 1983. Weeks later, he calls her, and she had just started dating what would be my father. But if he calls 2 weeks earlier, this show doesn't exist, the Jake Brown doesn't exist, or I'm just one of his daughters, or I'm a girl, I'm Jackie Brown, or I'm Jackie Rose, or I'm the next voice of the Mets. I don't know.
That's amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah, you know, if he called, you know, he was a player, I guess, back in the day. You know, making his way on Noelle Brown before she was Noelle Brown. At a Toyota dealership. I wonder what kind of car he was getting, if he's getting his engine fixed. I don't know, but both of them remember the story. And whenever I see Howie, it's say hi to your mother for me. And
that's amazing.
We always get a video and a picture.
But that's also perfect Howie to play into it. because
He
it's just who he
remembered though.
is.
He said like
Yes.
maybe he was lying, but when I had him on
It doesn't matter. Let's not
ama-
let facts get in the way of a good story here.
I mean, he seems like a guy is a very. I mean, he remembers everything in Mets history.
Everything.
I'm sure he
It
remembers
would not
meeting my
shock me if
mom.
he remembers.
Yeah.
Would
So
not shock me at all.
if he called a couple weeks ago, I mean, I guess I'm thankful he didn't because maybe I don't exist. Maybe his,
Yeah.
So
And you still have a relationship with Howie, so it's perfect.
yeah, and I'm a Mets fan, so it's a fun story to talk about. And you have a father-son story. Your dad, a broadcaster. If your dad was not a broadcaster, do you think you still become a broadcaster, or are you like a local firefighter?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because the other day I was thinking about this long and hard. When I'm at home, I have a lot of time on my hands. So I spend a lot of time just like reflecting and stuff like that. And I reflected on that the other day. I was wondering, what would I be if my dad wasn't a broadcaster? Because I don't know if I would have necessarily known that this avenue was even open to be a broadcaster. So I don't even know if I necessarily would have pursued it. Would I have the passion for sports that I do now? Would I have played sports through college? I don't know. So I'd probably have been a teacher, but I don't know if my passions would have been the same. Like being a history teacher is always what I wanted to be beyond a broadcaster. And frankly, up until 3 years ago, when I was working for the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, there was one day I was on the phone with my assistant superintendent at the school district that I grew up in, asking what would the process be like for me to go back and get my degree. So I've always considered becoming a teacher. I worked in a school during COVID. I was a teaching assistant. I was a substitute teacher, literally through my first season with the Mets, that I was still working in a middle school after the season ended. So I have a passion for teaching. I love it. So I think that's probably what I would do. I don't think I would have even known that this was a possibility, to be honest.
And he's still calling Phillies games? Is that right?
Yeah, going on this is year 26 in the big leagues for him, and year 24 with Philadelphia. And as we're recording this, he's getting set to call the first round of the NCAA tournament. He's in Wichita, so he's he's set me down this path, and man, has he been an incredible trailblazer for me.
Yeah, it's a cool story, and we know with Ian and Noe. I mean, Noe Eagle's getting higher paying jobs than Ian Eagle now. I mean, Noe Eagle's calling like the Super. I mean, it's unbelievable how quick Noe Eagle. Listen, it helps having the father, but he is also talented, as you are also talented. It does help, but like the level he's rising, the level you've risen, I think it's a cool story.
Yeah, listen, Noah and I think, would both be completely obtuse to say that we haven't been given opportunities. And I've spoken with Noah about this as well. We've been given opportunities because of who our fathers are. I mean, there's just no question about it. But once that door is cracked open, what do you do with it, right? Do you kick the door down or do you sheepishly walk through it? And you have two options, right? You can just go in there and act like you're supposed to be there because you're somebody's son and you feel like you're entitled to that. Or you can go into it with the expectation of, I have to work even harder to maintain the expectation that I need to be that much better. So there's two ways to look at it. You can approach it two ways. I like to think that I've approached it that way, that I have to hold myself to an even higher standard because of it. I know Noah's done it that way, and it's allowed us to have some success because of it.
You wonder if Howie made the call. If I would have been next to Howie and you in that,
we'll never know.
We'll never know. Instead, I'm behind the mic here. But you also mentioned about running, and you like to run. You had an accident where you got hit while jogging. The fact you still run, I feel like I would be horrified to run after that. Can you give like a quick synopsis of what happened and how you got back into running? And I thought you were biking, but you were actually running when you got hit by the car.
Yeah. So.
Not to bring you back to that day.
No, it's all good. I'm perfectly fine talking about it because I'm here and I'm okay.
Yeah.
Without going into the ridiculously gory details of it, I was jogging by my house in Bordentown, New Jersey. I was training for the Philadelphia half marathon, and I was about 3 weeks away from it. And I was at a crosswalk, and unfortunately, just was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and was hit and suffered 10 broken ribs because of it, had to have surgery to repair them, and fractured some bones in my face and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I was okay. It was a really nasty injury. It was a gruesome recovery, but broken bones heal. And I was fortunate that I had an amazing team of doctors at Capital Health in Trenton, and I have an amazing family. My parents, my wife Emily, like everybody was by my side 24/7. I was in the hospital for 9 days. My wife never left one night. She slept there the entire time. So I think that allowed me to kind of persevere through things and understand that I had bigger things still ahead of me. And it was never a doubt for me at that point that I was going to get back into running. It was just a question of when I could. So I eased back into it, gradually, worked my way to getting to a point where my doctors cleared me and went out the next year and ran the Philly half marathon. So I kind of went out and was full circle with accomplishing what I wanted to.
Do you take a different route than you took before? Like, do you avoid
I
that
do a little
street?
bit. I still run. I mean, it's only about a half mile from my house. So I have a lot of running trails around my house. So I kind of have to. Just more aware, right? And that's kind of like the message that I tell everybody, whether you're a driver, whether you're a person out there, just be aware of your surroundings. And when you approach a crosswalk, don't take anything for granted.
Well, listen, you look good. You had a lot of surgery and stuff. You look beautiful.
I
man.
appreciate
So-
it. Listen, I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. I've got my boy who lived scar on my forehead. So,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not the way that I wanted to get it, but hey, me and Harry Potter are kind of attached that way.
Yeah, my brother had a little scar, but he tripped over a sock and fell on a table. He also put peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the VCR instead of video cassettes.
Haven't we all?
Haven't we all?
Haven't we all?
He also dropped bowling balls on my mom's foot. We called them Benisms. He had some Benisms, things that happened. We are speaking of Ben. How about Brett? Brett Beatty. We're 7 days away
Yeah.
from opening day. That was one of my worst. I'm good at transitions.
Hey,
That was
listen,
one of my
Brett,
worst.
Ben, and then
Brett.
Seven, Beatty, it all worked out.
It all makes sense. And, I've been on the train of Luis Angel Acuna. I just think he provides more flexibility with his defense, with his speed, with what I know is a small sample size, but in a playoff push to do what he did in those last 2 weeks was very impressive to me. I know that a lot of the analytics people, the people that look at his AAA stats will say, look, his exit velocity sucks. The ball's not going in the air enough. His AAA numbers weren't good enough. But I look at what he adds to the roster as a whole, and I like him. It feels like, Pat, in the next week, we're going to see a platoon for the first 2 weeks until Jeff McNeil comes back. That's what it seems like they're leaning to. What do you think of that saga quickly, and do you have a preference of what makes more sense to the Mets?
I don't really have a pulse on it right now because I haven't been back at camp since Jeff went down with the oblique injury. So I think in the next day or two, I'll kind of get a better idea. I'm with you. I think that both are going to be on the roster opening day, and it is going to be a bit of a platoon situation, but they both provide roster flexibility, and they both allow you to keep a guy on the bench that is either left-handed, can play 2 or 3 positions. Maybe Acuna can give you 2 or 3 positions. I think both are going to be on the opening day roster. I think both are going to get an opportunity to stay on that roster throughout the season. I think at some point this season, both are going to take impactful at-bats for the Mets. In what way? I don't know. I just think that they want to give both of these guys every opportunity to succeed at the big league level. Brett's obviously had a little bit more of a larger sample size than Acuna has. But it's, these are still 2 young guys that are just trying to become everyday major league players. And I think Jeff McNeil is going to be the everyday second baseman when he's healthy and ready to go, but he also provides versatility that he can go play all over the place. So if you think that a guy like Acuna or a guy like Beatty can play every single day, you have the ability to kind of move guys around. So I think time will tell. I don't know the answer right now. But gut feeling is both will be on the roster opening day, and then one of them will have an opportunity to run away with that bench spot once Jeff's healthy.
Who's the biggest X factor of the 2025 Mets?
Who's the biggest X factor? That's a great question because, like, the easy answer is to say Soto's the X factor, but you know what Soto's going to do, and you just anticipate Lindor just taking that one more step forward. It's hard to ask that guy to have a complete season, but imagine the numbers that he would have had if he didn't get off to the slow start that he did. So Pete Alonso is the X factor for me because I just think Pete has the ability to be the best hitter on your roster. Right now, you need Pete to be the 3rd best hitter on your roster. And if Pete can play like the Pete that hit not even 50 home runs, but 45 and drove in 100, he's still probably the 3rd best player on your roster. That's a pretty good return on your 3rd best player. So in terms of position players, I think Pete's the X factor. On the mound, it's Kodai. because if Kodai's healthy, the depth of this starting rotation is so different.
If Pete replicates last year, the Mets are in trouble. The Mets need him to have a monster year. And listen,
Yeah.
if he wants to opt out and get a bigger deal, if Pete replicates last year, he's not opting out. He's taking that $24 million to the bank next year and calling it a day. And he's got to be. And I think that second year option takes some of the pressure off him. Where last
100%.
year he was going in. Now he's going in with, hey, if I do suck, I got $24 million, which still makes me a top 5 paid first baseman. And if I'm great, I could go out and get a multi-year deal. I thought it was very fair. The Mets gave him $30 million after having the worst year of his life. So I think after all the drama and the soap opera that was that negotiation, he ended up being the highest paid first baseman in 2025. So for him, he wins, and now he's got to go out and prove it. So he's a good X factor. To me, Pat, it's Brandon Nimmo because of his health. Can Brandon Nimmo play 150 games in left field? Will they have to DH him some days? He's going to be huge because this guy's the cleanup hitter playing with the right knee soreness and plantar fasciitis. If he goes down with a long-term injury, yes, the Mets are fine. They have Winker, they have Marte, they have Siri, they have Taylor. But you lose, one of your better on-base guys and a middle-of-the-order hitter that turned out to be a big RBI guy in the middle of the order, turned out to be a really clutch hitter, had some clutch moments for this team. And let's face it, he's beloved in that clubhouse. He is the smile in that clubhouse. And by the way, sports a great beard. Has a great beard this year. So to me, his health is a big X factor to this team and what they do because, if he's out for the long term, you might see, if Canario ends up getting through waivers, you might see Canario at some point. Unfortunately, I don't think Canario is going to make it through waivers. I think somebody's going to take him, barring an injury here in the last week, which knock on wood, hopefully doesn't happen. I'm a little sad they're going to lose Canario because I thought that was a sleeper good move for the Mets. Is there a sleeper player like that or someone that might get called up that you think makes an impact this year?
Boy, that's a really interesting question. I think Canario would have been a big one, honestly. And I think if they can somehow sneak him through waivers, I'm with you. I don't think they'd be able to, but I think that he would have provided some really impactful depth. I really do think that whoever the backup catcher is whoever it's going to be a pretty impactful player because Luis Torrens is a terrific number 2 catcher, but he's not going to be able to play every single day, and they're going to need to get production. That's what makes Luis Torrens so great is that defensively you don't get really any kind of drop off when Alvy's not out there. You obviously get a little bit of a drop off offensively, but he's not just a hole in the lineup. So I think if Luis can't play 6 days a week, they're going to need somebody out there twice a week until Alvy gets back. That isn't just going to be some person that they put in the 9-hole. So I think whoever wins that backup catching spot, whether it's Hayden Sanger or Jackson Reitz, I think that's going to be a pretty important position. And the other person that I think is going to be is like a under the radar, even though he's not, is Tyler McGill. Because I just think that he's one of those depth guys that they're going to need big innings from. So he's a name that everybody knows. He's a name that's been in the big leagues, but he's kind of outside the shuffle right now just because of all the other names that they have there. Now with the injuries, he's kind of been forced back in, but everybody was just waiting for him and David Peterson to take that next step forward. David Peterson took that next step forward. Now it's Tyler McGill's turn to take the next step forward. And if we got flashes of that last year, he can be really impactful if we can get those flashes into terms of more sustained success.
Yeah, inconsistency has been key in Tyler McGill's career. We got to find some consistency. He's going to be part of this rotation. I expect him to be the initial 5, and I expect Blackburn to be the long man out of the bullpen as he still tries to get right from that offseason spinal fluid leak surgery. Let us know in the comments, who's the X factor of this Mets team? Who are you looking at? As a sleeper, got to get called up. Not really called up, but I do think Acuna is going to play a piece because I think the Mets
100%.
I think they're going to platoon him with Jeff McNeil. I think Beatty gets sent down. And McNeil's bound for another injury or maybe struggles where we see more Acuna. So I look to Acuna to be a piece. OMG in the song, let us know in the comments. Do you still play it for home runs? Do you still play? Like, I feel like we've moved on from it, but it's such a banger. Or do you play Nueva Yo as the Bad Bunny as the song? What do you do for the song for the home runs? Do you get rid of OMG?
Yeah, it's a hard no for me.
Really?
I think that you have to. If Jose was still on the team, I think maybe he could stick around, but I think the fact that he's not on the team anymore, it kind of goes by the wayside. if people remember in 22, the Phillies had Dancing on My Own as their big, like, battle cry kind of song, right? It stuck around probably a season too long or so, and it kind of burned out. I don't want that to happen to OMG. I want OMG to be remembered for what it was and what it represented. So I would rather retire it now on a positive note where we can all remember that song and remember the summer and remember the run versus trying to keep it going for one more year or so. It's going to be played all the time still. I think everybody's going to still play it. I still think we're going to see the signs. I still think we're going to see the shirts, and that's great. But I would change the song.
Yeah, I am going to write a song for the Mets this year, and that will be the song they
Perfect.
play. I also think my song that I created on my own was Acuna Matata. It means
Naturally.
no worries for the rest of Mets days. Acuna and
You should
Swaggy
write that down.
V, the Mets philosophy. Acuna Matata. That's got to be it, Pat. What do you
But
think?
before somebody steals that, you need to write it down and patent it and make sure that you get, the music with it too, because that's brilliant.
I did post a video. I have a 30-second video, so I'll send it to the Mets, see what they say. Send it to Will or
Perfect.
one of those social media guys, Kayla, one of those people, and make sure that they get it out there. But there's got to be some kind of song. All right, what do you think? I think it's a 3-team race. I
Yep.
think my official prediction when I do them on Mets Daily next week will be the Mets win the wild card. They lose to the Braves by 1 game. I really think it's going to come down like it did last year, although last year was the day after the season. I think for the division it comes down to one of the final games. Much to the dismay of your dad, I think the Phillies have regressed. I don't think they had a good offseason. I know they're falling kind of under the radar, and everyone's talking about the Mets and Braves and forgetting about the team that actually won the division. But in my opinion, I didn't think the Phillies did enough. That doesn't mean they won't add more before the deadline, and they probably will. I just think they had a lackluster offseason. The Mets had a great offseason. I thought the Braves had a pretty good offseason. And the Braves' biggest part of the offseason is when they get Acuna back and Spencer Strider back on the mound throwing heat. Can he stay
Yep.
healthy? That's kind of the key to their season. Strider has to pitch. He has to be out there because without him, that rotation takes a big knock. How do you see the division playing out? Do you have a prediction for a division winner, and do the Mets win 90-plus games? What happens?
Yeah. Here we are on March 20th. I can't pick a division winner because I just think too much is going to change between now and then. And I think any three of these teams can win the division. I think the Phillies actually had a pretty decent offseason because they turned their biggest detriment into their biggest asset. Like when you look at their lineup, it didn't need much changing. They added Max Kepler, who at the time was a really good player, but he's been hurt. He just hasn't been the same. So it's kind of a, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. You're kind of taking a flyer on him to see if he can return to form. But they didn't have a fifth starter last year, and it showed down the stretch because those guys got tired. So they go out and they get Jesus Luzardo, which I thought was a really good acquisition, assuming he can stay healthy. That's the biggest thing with a guy like Luzardo. We saw it with the Marlins at times. He was brilliant. Other times he couldn't stay on the field. So I do think the Phillies bullpen still has some question marks. I know Jordan Romano's looked good, but they lost a lot of really impactful arms out of that bullpen, and they didn't really figure out ways to supplement them. So I still think the Phillies are a team that can win the division easily. I still think they're going to win 90 games. Atlanta is such an enigma to me. I can't figure out what they are because if they're not healthy, what are they? If they're healthy, they're a great team that can easily win 95 games. But Olsen had an okay-ish year for Matt Olson last year. Ozzy Albies is terrific. He just can't stay in the field. Arcia took a step back last year. Austin Riley's hurt. Sean Murphy's hurt. Acuna's already proven that he can come back from an ACL injury and play at an MVP level. So I'm not worried about him. But I completely agree with you with Spencer Strider is when and if Spencer Strider returns to form, that's going to be a massive X factor. They lost some pieces out of the bullpen, but they're still the Braves and they're still going to be in it. They're still very well managed by Brian Snitker. So, and then that comes to the Mets, who had a better offseason than anybody in all of baseball, and all they did was get better while also returning some really key pieces from last year. My expectation is to see the Mets team that we saw from June 1 on the entire season. And if that's the case, this Mets team can win the division. I expect all three teams to be in the playoffs. I expect every single one of these teams to beat up on each other. And I think it's going to be really fun. I think that I'm with you 100%. I think it's going to come down to the last week or so. These guys are going to be battling it out to either get that first round bye, get home field in the wild card. And as we know, the hottest team at the end of the season is going to make a run. It doesn't matter how you got there. It's how you finish, especially in these short series. So It's going to be a great summer. I heard what you said about the Nationals yesterday. I'm with you. I think they're good, but I just think that they're probably an 81 to 83-ish win team. I think they're going to have flashes. I think they're going to give headaches to a lot of teams, but this is a 3-team race, and any one of these teams can win the division. I anticipate all 3 teams making the playoffs, and honestly, probably all winning 90-plus games, which is just going to be insane.
It's going to be an incredible. I mean, there's so much hype around the season, not just for the Mets, but for how tough of a battle it's going to be to get to the
Yeah, it's
promised
going to be
land.
fun. It's going to be fun.
And I agree with you. Like, listen, division's nice and all. Just get me the goddamn playoffs. Like, I just want to play October baseball and see what happens. Like you said, it's always about, especially in the National League, the team that rides in hot finds their way to the World Series or trying to at least take down the Dodgers. That's really, it's about who could beat the Dodgers best of 7. Can they have enough injuries for you to have a shot because they're just too damn good? But it's going to be a fun season, and Pat McCarthy will be calling the games with Keith Rad. You know, Keith, I did bring the churro nachos a year or 2 ago, and I did bring him the burger. So you got to do a food review with me this year.
Yeah, I don't have the Broadcast Bites Instagram account like he does, and you know, maybe I got to get better about that. I don't know, but yeah, you know, Keith and I, you know, we're on our, you know, hot dad summer bods, so we gotta, you know, watch them a little bit and stuff like that. But at the same time, we gotta try the local cuisine every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, City Food voted #1 food in baseball by USA Today every year, and I'm a big part of the intake of that food, and I know a lot of the people that make it. So I did the Mel's Butcher Box Burger with Keith last year, which was instant diabetes, but so good. Like, it was instant calories just through the wazoo, but it was remarkable. So hopefully there's a new item this year. I'll try with you. We'll get a video, and we'll, you know, won't be there as often. You know, the hope is to move back by September, so I'll be there for the playoff push. But now I'm in, you know, suburban New Jersey. It is a different world. I'm surrounded by Phillies fans, and they hate me down here. Although some of them have called them, you know, I'm a tolerable Mets fan, which I'll take to my LinkedIn page and to my grave. But
that's an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, a lot of them
from Philly standards, for them to, you know, embrace you that way, that means something.
It takes like 20 minutes of talking and me making them laugh and telling stories, but like, as the minute I say Mets fan, it's almost like they are not buying me a drink. They're pushing me away, and 20 minutes later, they're buying me a drink. So we got to win. That's the goal for me this summer. Win over Phillies fans without getting my ass beat in Philadelphia. But until then, we'll be at the ballpark at Citi Field, and we'll be listening to Pat McCarthy on Mets Radio 880 with Odyssey, with Keith Radden and Howie Rose. You know, enjoy opening day, man. I can't wait. Baseball, we're a week away. We're 2 weeks from being back at the best ballpark in baseball, Citi Field. And we'll be eating, we'll be watching baseball. And thank you so much for coming on Mets Daily. Again, subscribe, everyone, to Mets Daily. Smash that thumbs up. Comment below. Should they play OMG, or should it be banned from the ballpark in 2025? And give Pat McCarthy a follow on Twitter at Pat McCarthy. What is it? _ at the end, right?
That's right. Too many Pat McCarthys in this world.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, Pat.
Anytime, brother.
Pat McCarthy here on Mets Radio 880. We'll talk to you on a happy Friday tomorrow, and then baseball next week. Thanks for watching Mets Daily.